Okay, I believe we are now live. So, Martin, Raf, Brad, Daniel, how's everyone doing today?
Very good. Thanks, Christian. You're doing good, Christian. Thank you.
Good,
Same,
good,
doing well. Thanks, Christian.
great. So we're gonna get things rolling pretty quickly on our end. We're just gonna officially kick things off right away. The way we like to start things here is just giving a big thank you. So first and foremost, thank you everyone, on behalf of FutureVault and our expert panelists partners that we have joined with us today for the discussion on best of breed technology solutions and strategy. We want to just thank each and every one of you for taking your time out of your day, and of course for our panelists themselves for making sure that they can carve out the hour for today's discussion. We're all incredibly excited, to spend the hour with you today, and it's one that we've actually been planning for quite a while. So I'm super excited for this conversation for a variety of different reasons, and especially when you have an all-star panel like we do with us today. And so on that note, let's just get into some of the introduction. So, this one's kind of putting our panelists here on the spot. As you see your name and your company logo rise and come up on the screen here, why don't you just go ahead and make a quick introduction so that our audience can get familiar with who you are.
Thanks, Christian. Thanks to everyone today. My name is Daniel Kenny. I'm the CEO of FutureVault. I've been the CEO just for over 1 year. And prior to that, I had a 22-year career with HSBC in banking, mostly in Asia, starting in Japan, and then moving to Indonesia, New York, and Toronto. So delighted to be here. I've been with the firm for 1 year, and I'm looking forward to this conversation.
All right. Hi, I'm Rafael. I'm the founder of Mako FinTech. We do onboarding for clients. We just do onboarding. We very often get asked, can we do other things other than onboarding? We could, but we don't. We like to partner with other groups. We think it's actually very important because, about 99% of the information that a firm has about its clients comes in through forms, and then we want to make that information universally accessible and available to all the other wonderful systems out there, whether it be for fee billing or document storage or, financial planning. So that's what we do. And, excited to have this conversation.
Yes, hello, and thanks for having me and PureFacts to this webinar. Really excited to be with you guys for the next hour. My name is Martin Carignan, and I'm VP Growth for PureFacts. I will celebrate my 10-year anniversary at PureFacts in August, so it's been a nice journey, and not a boring day for me the last 10 years. I've been in the software industry for about 30 years, working at IBM and a French company called Dassault System. So I'm very familiar with automation and increase of productivity with the acquisition of software. But my passion is really in the financial industry, and more precisely, where we serve our community here in the asset and the wealth management. Maybe a few words on PureFacts for those of you who don't know the firm. PureFacts is a solution provider, and we are a domain expert in revenue management. When we say revenue management, that includes fee billing, but also incentive compensation. And insights reporting for the mid and back office, for the advisor, and for the clients. So we are headquartered here in Toronto, but we have clients in Canada, in the US, in Europe, and in Asia. So looking forward to spend the next hour with you guys.
Afternoon, everyone. Brad Jaddery, Chief Revenue Officer at Conquest Planning. I feel like a bit of a fintech veteran at this point because I think this is my third fintech. I ran global sales for the Navaplan financial planning application a number of years ago. Moved over to a business called Quovo, which was an account aggregation platform. Stayed with them and led Canada through the sale to Plaid, and then joined Conquest pretty much at its inception. We started in late 2018. I joined it pretty much to kick off the year in 2019, and we've had a pretty fun and crazy ride over the past 4 or so years. I think we now would be considered the leader in financial planning and advice in the Canadian market. We also service
the U.S. as well as the U.K. So happy to be here. Appreciate the opportunity to connect with this panel.
And Franklin Sung is just running a little bit late. Franklin is the growth advisor with AppCrown, so he should be here probably and hopefully within the next 10 to 15 minutes, maybe even a little sooner, to chime in on the conversation there. And myself, I'll be moderating today's discussion. I'm the CMO here at FutureVault. So I think that kind of rounds out the introductions. Now I'm going to jump over to a slide here, and what you're looking at is, of course, the 5 logos from all the companies that are present here today. And I wanted to lead with this visual here for good measure, and to sort of really kickstart the conversation. We can consider this a bit of a tech map of its own, really demonstrating what a best of breed ecosystem could look like, what your best of breed ecosystem could look like. And the ultimate goal of our discussion today was to bring together best of breed solution providers and experts in their own domain to share their perspectives on implementing technology, especially as we all know it's a very real concern and challenge and a struggle for firms and institutions of frankly all sizes and at all stages. And there's no surprise as to why that's happening either. And this is just one of the examples here on this slide. So behind the text that you see here on the screen, there are blurred out logos that make up a category solution map of more than 400 technology providers. And that is just in the advisor tech space alone, meaning this doesn't even get close to covering the total amount of solutions that are available within wealth management, and is very far away from the total coverage of tech that's, broadly fits within financial services. So, you really talk about paralysis by analysis when, firms are getting to this and are looking to make an investment in technology. And, I'll pause here and I'll turn to the group for a question. Knowing the vast amount of options that firms are faced with, what comes to mind? Is there any upfront advice on how to navigate a somewhat messy landscape? And I'll turn it over to whoever wants to go first here from our panel.
I'll take a start. Or you can start, Dan. You go ahead.
Okay, I'll thank you about 2 minutes. I think just what I was going to say, Brad and team, was the vision for the firm. And if the firm or the wealth management platform, if the focus is on financial planning, estate planning, whatever that core business, asset management, whatever it happens to be, is the firm having a very clear vision of what they do well, what they want to differentiate with their competitors with, and have a very clear vision of their business strategy. Once that's defined and clear and accepted by the business, it's, what type of, how do you want the firm to operate? How do you want the advisor spending time versus your operations teams, your compliance team, et cetera? How do you envisage a target operating model? Like, what is the target you're trying to get at? And then you can work your way back into, okay, in that target operating model, here's how we want the firm to look on a day-to-day basis. Okay, what's the technology that can support that? And when you're choosing those vendors, which we're going to get into today, is, once you're finding those vendors, it's the interoperability, how those vendors talk to each other, how, in our case, we do documents and data. How does documents and data pass on to other members in the team, in the tech stack, so that you have the operating model that you've established and want to achieve? So that would be my first stab at that one there, Christian. Over to you, Brad.
Similar vein, I was going to essentially suggest a macro level lens at making decisions like this. There are a variety, obviously, of best in breed technology providers that are out there. And to purchase those and then try to stitch them together is the wrong strategy. The correct strategy, as Daniel alluded to, is understand how you want to go to market as a business and look at it from a macro level lens, and then look at those micro pieces of technology that can support your business and process. Going at it backwards can sometimes create some integration challenges. And if you decide upon what is your system of record or golden source of truth first, then stitching technology to that is easier than going the other way.
Yeah, Appreciate that. All good comments there. Martin, Raf, I want to give you both some airtime if you want on this one. If not, we can kind of proceed along.
I can add to this. Those are valid points. I think more tactically, I like to comment on how to go about, selecting, different vendors there. There are many options, and it's not going to come down. It's going to be up and up, with the fintech and the investments that are made in the marketplace. So what I've seen out there, obviously, from a tactical standpoint, we know the existence of, the formal processes around RFPs and so on. Not a great experience for anybody involved in that kind of process, not leading to the right decisions most of the time. What I've seen out there is firms and people having a steering committee or an advisor committee of different individuals that navigate through your journey around technology. And there's different people that could be part of that committee, whether they are technology firms that you are dealing with that are incumbents in your firms, but also peers in your industry, or technologists or consultants. But having that interaction with those people that you can interact on a regular basis, 2-3 times a year, to share some perspectives on the industry, the key trends, the different profile of technology vendors, just put you at ease and proactively look at the different vendors, and not, pushing you on making, quick decisions on a certain scope that you want to implement with the right partners. So I've seen this being done by different of our clients with a lot of success, and that's just an advice from a tactical standpoint that could be used here.
Yeah, just to add on to that, my gut reaction when I see this slide is this is overwhelming. I think this is an absolutely terrible experience for a wealth manager that just wants to focus on serving their clients best, and not needing to become a expert in every sub field of advisor tech or fintech. So I think, as Martin said, it's important to have a selection process. I also think that selection process should be tailored to the kind of size of firm that you are. Obviously it would be reasonable for a large kind of tier 1 firm or financial institution to be doing RFPs for every single aspect of their tech stack, but that's probably not the right approach for a smaller firm, maybe $1 billion in AUM or so. So I think that having a good approach and having an approach that's tailored to the size of firm that you are makes sense. I think that it's important to be aware of some key decision factors, just quick, go no go decisions, do they have a SOC 2? Is a pretty good one. That's a pretty good standard for are they able to be trusted with financial data. Another is just going to be, as Brad said, make one decision and then build around it, and maybe ask your existing provider, if you like them, who would they recommend for other services. So I think that kind of helps firm build a process that is more likely to interoperate well.
Yeah, that's great. Appreciate that from all of you. So I made a couple notes there because I thought that kind of rounds out a really good and informative approach for firms and institutions that might be listening. So it sounds like obviously reverse engineering it, starting with goals, primary objective, being resourceful, leveraging your existing partners, your existing network, your existing technology providers that you have a deep trust with already and that you have a good rapport with and relationship with, that you can really lean on them for their expertise. It's overwhelming. Raf, you nailed it there. It absolutely is overwhelming. It kind of makes you a little nauseous when you look at that thing, because there's just so many. And I mean, might make you more nauseous when it's blurred out like the way it is on the screen there. And of course, have a selection process that's tailored towards the size of your firm. And I think that's a really important piece, is that a lot of the selection criteria and the processes that maybe firms are using might not be the necessary mold, and it might not fit where they're currently at. And so I think maybe firms need to reevaluate their own selection process and criteria to make sure that they are moving forward with the right decision, and doing so that they can, within the current restraints and resources and capacities that they have. So that's great. I really appreciate that from everyone. We're gonna proceed with a couple of stats now. I want to further paint the picture here of what's sort of taking place across the industry when it comes to some of the challenges, and really all of it points to and suggests why best of breed and true partnerships and building relationships with your vendors in the digital transformation strategy is so critical. So these next few slides, I'm going to just pepper through them really quick. They're taken from a variety of different sources, but I think as a group, they tell a pretty convincing story of the current challenges, and better yet, how providers, again, especially best-of-breed solutions, can support growth and overall business outcomes. So the first stat that I want to lead with here is taken from McKinsey, and that's that relationship managers spend about 60 to 70% of their time on non-advisory activities and non-revenue generating tasks. The second one here is from Cerulli & Associates. It was also cited in the 2022 Investment News Advisor Survey, is that 94% of practice management professionals find limited technology integration creates productivity challenges. I don't think there's any surprises there from anyone. This one's super interesting. A recent Deloitte survey found that 51% of financial advisors are thinking about leaving for an organization with better tech tools. So it really goes to show you that implementing technology is more than just an IT investment. It's a business investment, and it's a culture investment. The fourth one here is that according to Cerulli & Associates, more than 70% of heirs are likely to fire or change financial advisors after inheriting their parents' wealth. So massive implications here on how firms are approaching technology to engage with and attract the next generation of investors and clients. And, the last one here is that 57% of advisors say the lack of integration between their core applications is the most significant pain point of technology. So here we have them again. I'm just going to present all of these stats up here. I know this might be a little overwhelming for everyone, but I just wanted to make sure that they're up on the slide here for our discussion. And so I've got two questions for the group, and we'll just kind of go around. My first one here is just tell us what you're thinking. What are your thoughts? What is your view when you hear and see these stats? What does it tell us? I'd like everyone to chime in here if you can. So Raf, not to put you in the hot seat there, but why don't we go ahead and put you in the hot seat?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. I have two gut reactions. One is, no surprise, 70% of heirs are likely to change financial advisors. I'd be shocked if, 70% of heirs were likely to adopt anything of their parents, like wear the same clothes or, listen to the same music. I just, I think that's a natural fact of life. I'd be surprised, honestly, if, the number weren't quite a bit higher. And I think that's just, a fact of life. I think it means that you can't, and some of these other stats as well, financial advisors thinking about leaving for better tech tools. I think that you cannot be stagnant. You cannot, just say, well, I have a leading position in the market. I have, all the biggest banks are using or advisors at the biggest banks are using my product. I think that innovation is constantly moving. You need to be constantly pushing the envelope and providing better and better service to both clients and advisors if you want to stay relevant in the industry. So that's kind of my gut reaction. I think that In this industry, not enough effort has been done to do that. I think, anyone who's seen some of the back office solutions out there in the industry would know that it's not surprising that there's such a bloom of fintech tools coming out because, frankly, it's been overdue. So I think there's a big opportunity here for companies like ours that are offering the next generation of technology.
I'll take a stab at that too there, Christian. So in kind of following up on Raf's points, it's back to that original diagram with all those tech providers. And it's almost a deer in headlights if you're going to do a digital transformation, right? Where do I begin? And these stats just tend to indicate that there's a fear of missing out. So that FOMO, deer in headlights, what do I do? And how do I future-proof my firm? Because the technology changes so quickly. If I make a bad decision on a vendor or vendors and a better product comes out in, 1 month, 6 months, what have you, the opportunity cost, the disruption to the business, et cetera, it could be fatal. So doing this right, having the right team, having the right advisors to help put forward a digital transformation and to de-risk that execution, kind of the point of this whole meeting today is work with technology partners that have integrated and worked at other firms as well that are referenceable clients. And then you kind of de-risk going with an unknown. You have vendors that know how to work collaboratively together and can give best-in-class tools. We've seen large language model disruption like ChatGPT enter the market very recently. How does that impact the tech stack? How does that impact our industry? So future-proofing your business, collaborating with partners, and doing a mark-to-market every 6 months or whatever the frequency is to make sure you're not missing out so that the advisors don't want to leave. You're going to be competitive and relevant. And on that last point about the asset, the transition of asset wealth from intergenerations, being able to personalize the experience for the family, right? Having a personalized experience so that the second generation, third generation gets introduced to the wealth advisor. And you might have a chance at retaining that family. To Raf's point, they may want to leave, but if you personalize it for the family and their whole estate and understand the beneficiaries of the estate, you might have a chance of retaining that AUM.
I can chime in here as well, Christian. So first off, those stats, they're just a good testament that the technology today is an enabler to the growth of the business, and anybody minimizing technology put at risk, being able to attract and retain clients and advisors. And that's just a fact, and that those numbers are absolutely not surprising, and it's not going to go down. It's going to just get higher and higher because there are choices now that we have from a digital experience that we didn't have 10 years ago. So the two key stakeholders, the investor, so the client and the advisor, are absolutely key to deliver a real client experience. Otherwise these stakeholders, will make other decisions. So from an investor standpoint, it is about delivering a personalized digital client experience, right? And for the advisor, it is about delivering a significant productivity gain when they do their task on a daily basis, so that they can really focus on their clients. That's what advisors want to do. They want to spend time with their clients and provide value, and having a technology to enable that on a daily basis, and to do the same from a mid and back office, so that the experience is absolutely delightful for the client when they onboard to a new firm, or go about the business, the change and their life events, which will trigger different actions from the firm. So not surprising at all, and something we definitely will see that will accelerate. If we would look at the US, I would absolutely see probably higher numbers than these compared to what we're seeing here in Canada.
Yeah, from my perspective, I look at this slide and it screams engagement issue or engagement challenge, right? I look at the numbers both from an advisor and firm level or a client level, and there's just a tremendous lack of engagement in the process. And that's something that's very important to us. We have a fundamental belief at Conquest that financial planning can be the absolute center of someone's, life, future, past, and we want to find ways to help people engage in more streamlined processes, both from an advisor side as well as a client side. But when we start looking at numbers, I'll pick on the 70% number of errors. Like there's a tremendous risk in asset pull from an advisor perspective, from an error perspective, but there's also, like, we have a population that's going through a change in their future where, a number of boomers continue to retire, and are having to find new ways to budget, having to find new ways to, pay themselves every 2 weeks instead of receiving a paycheck. And there's a tremendous risk for advisors that, or firms that are managing these dollars kind of as folks exit the workplace. So, there is absolute opportunity. I would say these numbers scream to me also that we, as fintechs within our space, should be tasked with solving some of these engagement issues. But that is the primary thing that jumps out to me, is that we have a massive engagement problem.
At least what I'm gathering is it's a bit of a nightmare for both advisors and for technology providers. But, Brad, to your point again, too, there's also a lot of opportunity, right? So it's not just the impending doom side of things. There's also impending opportunities here as well. And that's really what I'm sort of gleaning in on this, and obviously focusing on the upside rather than paying attention to all of the negatives that are in front of us. So,
and with respect to that opportunity, we have lagged in Canada, right? Like, there are not a lot of full service offerings that are TAMPs, let's just say, that really offer kind of a consolidated experience. And that's why we're having this conversation where, a few fintechs that stay in our swim lane and try to support best in breed services and do the right thing by our technology by offering, a very open API and architecture to support streamlined integration, workflow, data. And so I think there is an opportunity for us. And when I see these numbers again, I kind of pose the challenge to the panelists at the same time to say, hey, we need to step up and provide more confidence in the level of service that advisors can receive when they stitch together some great pieces of technology. And the lagging indicators are always what happens with the clients, whether there's a loss of assets or lack of engagement. But I think if we help solve that challenge for the advisors and bring together something that's very streamlined for them, then they can be focused on those relationships, that's 60 to 70%, and ultimately provide a better and engaged experience for their clients, which will help some of the later numbers, like that 70% number with respect to errors.
Yeah, certainly. I love the call to action there, of course, for each and every one of us to sort of play our role. Noted. We're certainly doing it, and we want to do more of it, right? Which is exactly why we're having this conversation. So that leads me to a second question. I was going to actually push off this question, but I think it's a good one to ask, is what are we doing about this? As industry leading providers, or rather, what can we do? And maybe I'll phrase it in a different way, actually. With some of the firms and institutions that each of you are working with, what are you seeing that successful firms are doing right now, today, with respect to the way they implement or partner with technology provider that sort of moves them away from becoming a victim, yet another victim of another stat? Is there anything in particular? Does it go back to some of those challenges that we talked about earlier about, reverse engineering from the goal, having a solid process in place? What can we do?
Yeah, I'll jump in there. I think Brad's comment that he made in passing about, picking a source of truth and then building around it, was bang on. I think the best implementations I've seen have kind of like gone quite systematically. Like, first we're building like a data lake or CRM or back office system, whatever it is that source of truth is, and then maybe the next step is the onboarding system that feeds data into it, or whatever the next step in that process is, and then choosing something that then integrates with those two things. I think that generally works best, even within a particular implementation. I think proceeding in phases, or proceeding in kind of an agile or lean methodology is the best approach as well. First make sure that you've got, just to speak from the world that we come from, we've actually had a lot of experiences where we've talked to clients who have had failed onboarding implementations, because onboarding is deceptively complicated. Like, it seems really simple. You just fill out some forms, right? It's everyone knows how to fill out forms, and yet the actual problem of very complex household workflows, lots of edge cases, lots of data validation of integrity issues really end up biting people pretty hard. So we often end up talking to clients that kind of have been had some failed implementation before. We've had clients that have spent 2-3 years working with some process, only to kind of say it's not working. And what can be positive out of those experiences is that at least they know, it's not right to kind of try to boil the ocean, build something, make sure it works, build on it. I think that's the single biggest thing that firms can do to avoid having technology failures. Also, try not to be the first client, the guinea pig to do something. So that's another good one.
So somebody's got to be first, though, Raf, don't they?
They do, and I'll say that we had a first client. We've had first clients for a number of our services, and I appreciate those clients very much. I think it's important to walk in with a clear approach there of we're doing I don't know, robo advisory or whatever. This the first time we're doing a robo advisory onboarding or something like that. There's going to be unknown unknowns here. So to just be upfront about how whatever it is that you're building should be scoped appropriately, and try to keep it on track.
We were very public with our first client. I think there's been a number of press releases about Investors Group, IG Wealth being our first partner we took live, and kind of a big bite for a fintech to take a firm with 4,500 financial professionals plus home office plus assistants. But we believed in what our product was, and our solution would be. I would say and maybe the lessons learned from that and what they did well was really had a very intimate understanding of the user journeys they wanted to deliver for their clients, for their advisors, for their home office. And I would encourage everyone on this call, if you're looking to implement technology, is to have a very good understanding of what you're looking to do with it. We'll provide certainly guidance and support around best practice and what's been done historically, but coming to the table with a clear vision of what you're looking to execute against from a plan perspective helps us be efficient in our implementation. So as Raf said, we don't see these implementations slip by 6 months or a year or 2 years. They've had some very good results. So Investors Group used to deliver about 60,000 financial plans a year through their field force, through a product that I used to run global sales for. And in their first year with Conquest, they ran just over 220,000 financial plans out to their clients. So we had very meaningful user journeys. It was a very clean and stitched together process that allowed us to get data efficiently into our system and then drive advice and planning experiences efficiently in front of the advisors and ultimately to the client. So my guidance would be have a very clear understanding of what you're trying to solve for with the purchase of these technologies.
I'm going to jump in on that too, Brad. That's spot on. I call it the target operating model, but it's having that champion at the client that has a very clear vision of what we just discussed. Here's what good looks like. Here are the steps and best practices, and the best practices we can bring to the table through our, shared experience. These are the things you want to avoid. Here's some best practice, and here's how you can differentiate. But having that target, I call it a target operating model, very clear sponsorship and vision at the client site, and it's shared and there's alignment, then you're going to be successful. And if you have the right partners and, how do I want that, every stakeholder in the organization, how do we envisage them working on a day-to-day basis, then you've done a good chunk of the pre-work required to then integrate and execute with your vendor partners. So, spot on. What does good look like? We had a very strong visionary at our flagship client, CI Financial. He had a very clear vision on how he wanted to go about deploying our platform for the advisors and clients, how to personalize it, and it was a tremendous success. So strong leadership, what does good look like? Break it down into phases to Raf's point, and then execute.
Yeah, just a few comments to complete. All great insights from the different panelists here. But I think the first thing is do your homework before approaching different vendors. And part of the homework is what I've seen out there is to involve the different key user and stakeholders in that equation. And do the work diligently about what's preventing them from extracting full value from the firm, whether you are an investor or an advisor. Really going through the detail journey of what they do and how it can be better, and then when you're interacting with a vendor, you can have a very meaningful and intelligent conversation about what's true for you versus what's true out there in the industry. So do the homework first, and then there's all sorts of ways of interacting with the vendors. What I've seen that worked very well for us at PureFacts is doing POCs and basically give a bit of skin in the game with our solution, looking at different use cases, and start dating before we get married. So that's worked very well for clients, appreciating the commitment early on to see if that can really work, and then planning for the whole for the full implementation and so on. So that's worked well for us.
Yeah, really appreciate the color there from everyone. I got some really good notes that I made on that, and we're going to do something special after this webinar with that, and we'll include everyone, because I think that conversation there is so critical and it's so fundamental to how firms can actually sort of reverse engineer that success. So appreciate that from everyone. We're going to move forward now. And yes, you've seen this particular slide before. I want to come back to this slide for good measure, because I think it's important in the context of what the best firms are doing with respect to their technology implementations today. But it really spills into each of our panelists, so the 5 of you, and the philosophies behind each company. Each and every one of our partners, including ourselves here at FutureVault, we've all kept our focus on delivering the best solution in the respective category, which is why I named the categories here on these slides. Why is that? And this is a question for the group that maybe we'll just spend no more than a minute or two on, but what has kept you focused and not moving into other categories? And I ask this because we all know it's incredibly tempting for technology companies to expand outside of their core offering, but what keeps you focused?
I can start. We've had a strong thesis from the get-go to get more people into financial plans and advice. Around the globe, only 8% of individuals, investors, have access to a financial plan. We've done a bit better in North America. It's somewhere in the 25 to 30% range. But we've been very, very diligent to our thesis, and that comes from the top down within our business. We understand what we're very good at, and we partner in situations where there are opportunities to, again, tie together unified experiences. And so that's why I'm on this call. I have had a number of great discussions and work with FutureVault. I mentioned Raf and I have been on some panels together. I've met the folks at PureFacts a number of times, and I think for us, like we are asked every day, all day, to stretch outside of what is advice and what is financial planning, and we will not do it. I think there just needs to be commitment at kind of that senior level, and clearly communicate that down within your business.
Yeah. Just to jump in, I agree. Like every day, all the time, clients, because like I said earlier, financial advisors want to focus on being financial advisors. They don't want to be tech experts in every subdomain of technology. And so they establish a good relationship of trust with a vendor, and they're kind of like, well, you do my whatever it is, expenses, paperwork, or whatever. Can you do this for me? Can you do that for me? And it's I think it's very important, as Brad says, to stay true to your vision, be focused on being deep rather than sort of wide and shallow. I think it's important to provide like the full support for all the real edge cases that an advisor is going to run into in the particular service that they're giving to. One group that I think does really, really, really well at this is PureFacts. Honestly, I'm going to give a shout out to Martin, his team. The degree to which PureFacts' clients regard PureFacts and their relationship manager at PureFacts as like a trusted advisor is, I personally think it's unparalleled in the industry. I think they talk to their clients. They say, we do this, you need something else, let me refer you to one of our other partners if you need whatever it is for this other service. And we try to emulate that at Mako as well. I think so. Generally, if a client comes to us and says, you guys are doing great at onboarding, do you have a CRM that you like working with, or portfolio management system that you like working with? We try to have those integrations and relationships in place so that we can make that referral to the right person, rather than kind of being in a situation where the client's asking us to build it.
I'm going to jump in there too. I couldn't agree more, guys. And I think back to, we see on that, again, that original kind of ecosystem diagram, there are all-in-ones out there, the TAMPs, the all-in-ones, and jack of all trades, master of none, right? So stick in your lane and FutureVault, right from Raf's onboarding, the memorialization of documents, the data that is extracted from the documents that could feed, for example, a financial plan that Brad's platform is building, Conquest, and just staying in that lane, being the best at what you do. Every platform now would have, say, a documents section on it, and it's not really a focus. So our view is, well, we'll handle that, and get as much value out of that data within the documents for all your downstream systems, processes, flows, etc., and also provide them in a personalized experience to clients. So stick in your lane, be the best at it, file your patents, invest your R&D into developing the very best platform, and again, a deep functionality capability that you can add to the overall stack. So the jack of trades, master of none is not an area we want to go in. We are very clear when we say not our area, but we know the experts over at PureFacts could help out on that. So just stay in your lane and integrate, and have APIs and collaborative partners so you can solve the holistic problems.
I want to thank you to my peers on the panel. So thank you so much for your comments. And at PureFacts, we have been around for 25 years, as opposed to most of these firms on this panel have been a more recent company. So has that never always been straightforward that way? But we have learned that through our journey, that we have to be a domain expert to be successful at what we do. And we made very difficult choices along the way. But we have become that domain expert, in revenue management and reporting, because it is very hard, almost impossible to do it all, to be an end-to-end vendor. It's really, really hard. We don't see that. We don't see anybody being able to pull it off. So the best of breed approach is absolutely very compelling, and the track record is there for all these companies on the panel because we have worked with all of them. We know this is the path to success for the firms, and really choosing the best solution that is out there. And that's our lane. That's what we do. And we get asked every day about doing things that we don't do. And the answer is always the same. We always look at partners to help for that journey. That will not change.
And I think there's actually a very good macro level example of that with the Pershing X business. So we've been very close to that business as they're building their, fintech and next generation of what Pershing and the original Next 360 business is becoming. And I think they were big enough and are big enough to have said, hey, we're just going to build everything. But again, very similarly, they said, we're going to focus on the stuff that we do most effectively. And then we're going to partner in those situations where we know there's best of breed experts out there. So I think the market is showing this. Obviously, businesses like Franklin's are very very helpful when it comes to stitching some of these things together. But there's that Pershing X example just struck me while we were having this conversation of a very macro level example of someone that could have tried to build it all, but decided it was not the best route for them.
Yeah, and for good measure too, right? Like there's obvious reasons as to why they're doing that. Right? Like you said, they're certainly big enough to, and they certainly have that power too. But at the end of the day, why go out and do that when there's already best of breed solution? That is all they do every single day, all day long, right? And so, obviously all of us are on the call and on this discussion here for a reason, because that's our philosophy and that's our perspective as well too. So really appreciate that. Yep.
It's not just about today, but it's about tomorrow, right? So who can come up with the best solution today, but also evolve with the different needs of the marketplace and so on to maintain and bring the same level of efficiency with a product. So those are two questions. It's never just about today. It's also tomorrow. And
absolutely.
It's not. I
couldn't agree more, Martin. And it's that, we call it future-proofing the client. Look at if there's some disruptor coming up down the line, we have to have awareness of what those disruptors are, be positioned to have our clients be comfortable that we'll adapt, we'll either partner, et cetera, but future-proofing that digital transformation strategy, that's got to last you for years, and you don't want to make that critical bad decision.
Absolutely. Appreciate that. Martin, thank you very much for adding that color, because you're absolutely right. And, I think that was an important delineation there. So I'm glad you threw that one in. I want to be mindful of time. We're at about 2:52 here Eastern time. We said this was going to run for the hour. We've got a couple more key conversations that we need to get through. So we'll see where this takes us, and we'll do our best here to get through everything. Interoperability. I've heard that term thrown out a couple times here throughout this discussion. I think it all comes back to integration. It's a little bit more than integration, though, if you ask me. It's really about true partnership, true good measure of a true working relationship between vendors. Because if you have two vendors that are coming at it that may integrate, but that don't work well together, there's a lot of issues that can take place there. It's Martin's point in the future. And, really it's just, I want to hear from each and every one of you. Daniel, I'll start with you on this one. When you hear interoperability, or when you describe it, what is that? What comes to mind?
Yeah, you got it. So we spoke already about, process flow, workflow, data, et cetera, and functionality of this platforms and software in that ecosystem. But it's also, look, we all have APIs, right? And at the same time, we're upgrading our platform. And we need to maintain synchronicity between the platform and the APIs and who we're talking to, number one. And then number two is, the depth of that API integration, right? For example, in our platform, We have the very basic get a document, send a document, extract data, etc. But let's say there's some insight gained from, okay, a client has uploaded a new document, or they haven't delivered a document, or they've amended a document, this type of thing, or the data associated with that document. Well, that's a trigger. And that's something that the depth of the API integration between partners, and again, for example, Conquest Planning, the advisor might want to know that a client has done something in their vault that will impact the financial plan they currently have. And that's a trigger event. So that depth of integration and getting to kind of the bare basic, API functionality and calls, but getting really nuanced now and giving that information to an advisor and client that that our platforms can provide, and we should always be adjusting and improving over time. So very flexible APIs, being able to change them quickly, maintain synchronization between all of our platforms through middleware or point-to-point API connections, and constantly adapting that going forward.
Yeah. I want to add on the human factor, the collaboration aspect of things, which I actually think is absolutely critical. I think interoperation is a full company effort from both sides. It's important to have, the technology teams in sync, which is one part, and not necessarily an easy part. It's also obviously important to have the implementation client service teams in sync. Martin mentioned, having like a working group or steering committee that's kind of like got the representatives from the clients and from each different service provider there. That's important as well. Honestly, I think that the messaging as well, the collaboration between the sales or account management teams, and in fact the tremendous effort that you're doing here, Christian, in terms of the marketing or outreach collaboration, I think it's huge. I think interoperability is APIs, yes, but it's also the whole company's working together.
100%.
Yeah, completely agree. I appreciate that. And that's why we've enjoyed, our discussions and working with everyone on this call too, because there's that sort of common ground and that common mission. So it comes back to the human factor there, no doubt. 4 minutes to go. We're going to go to the next one here. Let's talk about what happens. I know we covered a little bit about of this, but not entirely. What happens when firms get it wrong when it comes to their tech stack? Of course, this is a huge risk, and especially when you do not leverage the best of the best. Who wants to go first here?
I'll take the obvious answer quickly, and I'll hand it over to the team. But obviously, when it goes wrong, it could be fatal to the organization, right? Full stop. And this cascade of, one problem after another. And so I think it does come back to, again, in the initial design and architecture and what does good look like, positioning yourselves that if you get something wrong, the market changes, there's a disruptor, you can pivot. And the platform supports that pivot. And the components within your tech stack can handle that. So I think it could be fatal to the firm. Let's face it. The wealth management, loss of clients, et cetera, compliance reasons. There could be regulatory issues that arise if you get it wrong. So just make sure that initial design is fit for purpose to avoid that.
Yeah, I think Martin hit on a good point earlier with respect to POCs and, just kind of de-risking the process. So I think there's ways where firms can acquire technology nowadays that aren't as, burdensome or negative from kind of a CapEx perspective when we used to have to sell software as a license, and then you'd have maintenance that would sit behind that license. It's really now a subscription world. So there are more flexible ways to acquire software and be more mindful of some of the stitching from the get-go. And to Daniel's point, then the ability to pivot, right? So instead of having these massive big bang launches, there are ways to kind of bleed the technology into the business and create some opportunities for pivot where you're not seeing success initially.
Yeah, what I would say here, Christian, is I don't think there is a lot of firms and people who have a perfect record in terms of decision making at adopting technology. So I think we have to be humble and recognizing that sometimes you're gonna either choose maybe not exactly the right solution, or maybe you will not implement it the right way. And I think you have to make that bold decision to go against a decision that was made maybe by yourself or your predecessor, and rip and replace, and really go at it with the best practice to make sure you don't make the same mistake. But the last thing you want is to continue and offer a less than capable experience to your clients and to your advisors, because that's going to be your slow death. Advisors will leave your firm, clients will leave your firm. So you have to make that bold decision to recognize, okay, here's a mistake, here's what we're going to go about it, and we are going to come up with a better solution, and get a new start. And being transparent and humble, and being bold, I think is absolutely traits that are critical, in this space. So.
Yeah, appreciate that. How are we doing for time? I just want to make sure that the 5 of you are still good. If we can continue this for another 5 or 10 minutes just to get through everything. Does anyone have to jump, or are we still good here?
No hard stop here. I'm good.
Okay, great. I do not want to end this conversation. That's why I feel like we're uncovering a lot of really good, meaningful, and significant tips here. So, this one we can go through pretty quickly, because we talked about this quite a bit earlier. Is about, okay, we looked at the interoperability. We talked about, what can go wrong, what are some of the risks, and now it's about, okay, well, how and where should firms start? Now, we did cover this, and I'll go back to sort of reverse engineering, starting with the goals, the primary objectives, the resourcing, having that selection criteria. Is there anything else here that, maybe we didn't cover in the conversation that we feel is critical for firms that are just maybe taking on some sort of digital transformation strategy and are at that start line?
I think we covered a good amount of it. I think we talked briefly about RFPs earlier. I would encourage people that they are not as helpful a process as firms may think they are, as they're starting to make some of these decisions. And the reason I say that isn't necessarily because you don't want to have a competitive situation. It's because you actually, as a firm who's purchasing, potentially loses access to information going through that RFP process, because you're basically then looking at this spreadsheet of questions and answers and trying to rank, instead of actually engaging with 2 or 3 different vendors and actually engaging in an experience that can help you better understand your future.
I'm on board with that too. I think it's recognizing that there are firms out there that collaborate, and not hesitating to reaching out for, the humble aspect that Martin was referring to. Look, this is what we're thinking, folks. Would you mind a whiteboard session? And, grab 3 of us and bring us in a room, and we can help brainstorm. So I think the how and where is how, collaborate, get industry experts like ourselves to come in and challenge your ideas. Again, bring that best practice. Don't hesitate to do it. That's what we're here for. And, there's strength in numbers. So I would recommend that approach, and hence the seminar today. Grab your best partners, the best in their class, bring them in. We collaborate. We love this stuff. Don't hesitate to do that.
Yeah, I'll add for firms that are, big enough that you have multiple different departments. We've seen circumstances where the process was, for example, led by a procurement division, for example, and they were kind of like disconnected from whether it's the advisors or client service division or compliance division, or operations division. I think it's really important to have the voice of all stakeholders involved, in particular the people that are going to ultimately be using the solution. It's very easy, I think, for someone who's in the position of dreaming up what the ideal circumstances to kind of build a tower of cards and then bring it to the table and not get buy-in from the teams that are supposed to be using the solution. So I think engaging with more stakeholders earlier, getting their views and getting their buy-in that this migration is going to actually help their clients and help their day-to-day is, it seems obvious, but it's a step that honestly too many firms, which you would think are, serious, well-run firms, make that mistake.
Yeah, if I can chime in here, that's I absolutely agree here, and I would say that the power today is for those companies who can share with their key partners. So Ralph alluded to the fact that we are a trusted advisor to most of our clients. So often our clients actually share with us their ecosystem of different technology and partners that they have. And that starts discussions about how can we actually make this ecosystem better for you? And how can we actually look at processes and tasks that can be automated and that can be jointly performed between the different technologies. And that just brings it to a different level of collaboration and value that is being provided to these firms. And I still see a lot of clients not wanting to share that information to the vendors and to the different providers. And to me, this is a missed opportunity, because if you bring your partners together and the key stakeholders, there's a lot of solutions that can be brought up. And it's not rocket science. It's about putting the right people in the room and whiteboarding to make things better. And I've seen it, and I've had it with some of the firms on a panel. When we have that kind of interaction and experience, we just can deliver so much better value for the clients.
Absolutely. Yeah, appreciate that. So I think that, I think that's a really good way to kind of end this discussion today. I think we sort of covered all the ground that we wanted to for today. So, maybe we'll just end off on, thanking everyone, obviously, for attending today's session. But, really, I wanted to thank the five of you for coming on here, for spending the hour with me and talking about best of breed technology solutions and strategies. Really, really, really enjoyed this conversation. We'll have some good content coming out of this as well, too, that I can share with your teams.
Thanks, Crispin.
Thanks for the opportunity. Can I give a special shout out to one of our attendees, George Fernandez out of Kansas City? I'm sure he's listening. He probably can't speak, but he's was a client of mine many, many years ago down at Waddell and Reed, and I saw his name and shot him a text. I'm like, don't tell me you're in this this panel, and he certainly was. So
shout out to Dan Garrett as well. Yeah, for joining us. Yeah,
appreciate it very much, guys. Take care. Thank you for joining us for the hour.
Thanks for hosting.
You're welcome. Bye.